So we watched episode 5 together, and he was just staring at it, and he's like, this is tough. And he said, there's power in weakness.
But like, bro, I was like dying. My security and stuff were coming into the room at night to check my pulse. Like, people don't know how serious it got. Like, it was legit crazy scary.
Hi, Michael D. Ratner.
Hello.
Director of Justin Bieber Seasons, the documentary that is really taking not only the internet, but truly the world by storm. I want to start at the beginning. Tell me, how did you and Justin Bieber get linked up?
I was working on another music anthology series with Scooter Braun and SB Projects, and Scooter said to me, you got to check out this footage. We're talking about doing a documentary, and Joe Termini, who is a co-director on a bunch of the episodes, was filming Justin just behind the scenes, everywhere he was going, during like the very nascent stages of his album making.
Sure.
And I saw this and I was like, you need to get me in a room with him. Like, I just want to see what he wants to do with this. I think it could be really special. And we sat there and we talked about what the project could become. And we were aligned because he wanted to go and tell the real story as well, which is what I obviously wanted to do.
Yeah.
And, from there, Joe, myself, Justin, we put together something that I'm quite proud of.
What was your plan or strategy going into it?
It was to make a doc-series. It was to film verite style and then mix in like the talking heads that you see.
Yes.
And get his close collaborators. You got Pooh Bear and Josh Goodwin and Hailey and obviously Justin himself and Scooter and Allison, Ryan Good.
Yeah.
To get all of those voices to go and tell this story accurately, I always like to think about the audience we're making it for. We're on YouTube where he was obviously
Firstborn, yes.
Yeah, he was born. And coming back home to YouTube and then having that be a free global platform where everybody could see this thing. And if you want to see it early, if you're a super fan, go get YouTube Premium, right? Like, I think all of those things made it special, and that's what we set out to do.
What was your vision going into this? I know as a filmmaker, you probably have specific things that you're like, I'm not doing this unless I can do it this way. What were those things for you?
To tell Justin Bieber the human being story,
Not the global superstar, not the glossy version
those
of him.
are intrinsically tied, but it was, how do you go and tell a human interest story? I mean, it's like a human story, and he's the first, we talk about this in the doc, he is the first global superstar, megastar of the social media era. And that has ramifications and effects and consequences. I think he's doing a pretty good job.
No one's ever grown up in the history of humanity like Justin Bieber. No one's ever been that famous worldwide in an era of social media.
And everybody's had to watch him go through every single phase of life.
Why now? Why do this documentary now?
I think that, and I won't, with fear of sounding cheesy or too on the nose, it's a season, right? Like, it's not his whole life. And I think that capturing this moment in time and being able to reflect on some of the stuff that's been reported or there was sort of ambiguity about is important as he goes and reintroduces himself to the world.
There was a time where I was sipping lean, I was popping pills, I was doing Molly, shrooms, everything.
There's a lot of heavy topics in this docuseries. What shocked you the most? Did you know that he would be opening up about substance abuse, about Lyme disease, health issues?
We spare no piece of information, that there's nothing off limits, there's no restriction list, and he really talks about everything. And it's not just one issue. He talks about his Lyme disease and the drug use and obviously mono, and there's sort of anxiety and a lot of these different heavy subject matters, because I think that for him it was cathartic in some ways to go and say, here's my story, here's some of the things that I've been going through, and whether you're a global superstar, whether you're me, you, anybody, we all have issues that we got to deal with. So I think by being brave and going out there and saying, I'm going to talk about some of the struggles I had, he's actually going to help quite a few people.
I think it's very relatable because if you haven't gone through it yourself, you know someone who's gone through it, and therefore you have those feelings. But you mentioned there was no restriction list. When you guys met up and said, let's do this, he didn't say this and this and this, those are no-goes?
No.
Not one thing.
And I kept waiting for it to be, oh, well,
eventually,
no, he really was an open book, and I think that says a lot about him. I'll tell you one line that he said to me that has stuck with me forever was we watched episode 5 together, and he was just staring at it, and he's like, this is tough. And he said, there's power in weakness. And I thought when he said that, he said the very reasons why it's sometimes uncomfortable for me to watch that is the reasons I want it out there.
So he's watching these episodes back with you.
I've watched the episodes with him, yeah.
Wow, that must be a very fascinating experience.
Yeah.
Were you watching him? Like, what was the expression on his face watching all that jarring footage back.
Yeah, I think it's tough to watch yourself on screen. I think it's tough to also watch something that you've made with this person
Yeah,
you've made.
yeah.
But
A lot of
no,
layers.
it's important because I think that we wanted to go and make it as strong as it could be. So we'd watch it together and we'd have deep conversations about why things were a certain way, but it was never a place of subjectivity or trying to make a Justin Bieber commercial. He was never trying to just use this as a vehicle to push album sales. It was really, how do I tell my story?
Are there any tears in those viewing sessions?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think makes him emotional?
I think that he's got a great heart. So as he reflects on different relationships he has and people that have stuck with him, and I think he does get emotional. You know, he certainly broke down, which was, I think, reported at his listening party, because he was thanking a lot of the people in the audience for their involvement in helping him get to this point. I think he takes great pride in where he's at today.
I was waking up in the morning and the first thing I was doing is popping pills and smoking a blunt and starting my day. You know, so it just got scary.
I want to know, as you're doing all these interviews and people are making confessions and they're describing in detail what he went through, what made your jaw drop on the floor?
Maybe some of the candid, open conversation about prior drug use, but nothing made my jaw drop. I mean, we talked about it at such length.
Ahead of filming, you knew that you guys were going to tackle all of this.
Yeah, I mean, in that first meeting, we got on the same page, and I think that's what made our relationship work so well. Nothing really made my jaw drop because I knew we were going there. I think I was more thrilled that it ultimately went that way. You know?
It sounds like you had a dream subject to work with.
Yeah, he was great.
I am here in the doctor's office, and what we are about to do is the nurse is going to put in an IV, and it's called NAD. It's going to flush out some of the toxins.
You guys take the cameras inside a doctor's office. One of the most intimate things you can do on camera.
Yeah.
I mean, that is such a vulnerable state. How emotional was it watching Justin talk about this procedure that he's having and be so open about that experience?
He never wavered from what he said he would do. I will provide the access, you tell the story. He basically stays consistent throughout as far as his willingness and his behavior with cameras around. We were able to go, and sometimes we'd be very light lift where, you know, you just get one camera. Because for me, you'll notice in the documentary, it wasn't about always having the glossiest, nicest shots.
No.
There's something
But that's what
about-
made it feel real.
Yeah, you should walk away from some of that stuff saying, I shouldn't have just seen that. I shouldn't be here.
Basically, infections have played a big part in my acne. It feels good now to know why I feel so crappy all the time.
Is there anything in the documentary that we are not going to see? Things you filmed that Justin said, let's pull back, I don't want that to make it to air?
Yeah, there's a tremendous amount of footage that people will not see because we shot and we shot and we shot, but nothing for that reason. There's nothing that was cut from the edit because he said this goes too far. It was really like, let's get it all in there. When you're Justin Bieber, it's hard to respond to each, you know, false report or a fake headline. I think here he used this as an opportunity to say, what really do I want to speak about? Not necessarily as a response to that, but to set the record straight about his life and what was going on. So, you know, whereas I think many people might shy away from that stuff, instead we really gravitated towards it so that we could go and address it and then move on.
Were there any moments where you needed to take 5, where things got a little too emotional, the tears were coming, it was too hard to talk about, and you needed to be like, let's turn the cameras down for a second?
No, there was never any moment where we had to turn the cameras down. There's moments where, you know, right after we do this heavy hour-and-a-half interview, a lot of which is in episode 5, he leaned off and he was just like, it feels so good to share this stuff. And he says, I don't think I was mature enough to do this prior.
Yeah.
And that wasn't for the camera, but it did end up in the cut, to see the authentic nature of Hailey and Justin's relationship, and it does not change when those cameras go away. And I think that Justin is who he is as well. And really what you see is what you get.
My wife, she's in the back. She makes everything better. You make everything better, babe.
Thank you, baby.
I want to move into Justin and Hailey because it's such an integral part
Yeah.
of not only this documentary, but truly, like, to me as a viewer, it seems like she saved his life.
Yeah.
Like, she seems like such an important part of his mental, his physical, his everything. And I want to know, as having like a front row seat to their marriage, their relationship, what's the dynamic and what do you take away from their relationship?
I think that they're meant to be. I mean, they've got a fantastic relationship. I think that she's obviously a tremendous wife, and they're working on being a really, you know, strong, unit where they're just working on making their marriage work and living as stable of a life as you can while being,
Well, your life is very not normal.
Yeah.
You want to check everything. You can't just go for a couple months and be like, I feel kind of better.
Did it surprise you to see how much of a caretaker Hailey is? I mean, I'm watching her zipping him into this hyperbaric chamber.
Yeah.
She's monitoring what time he should be taking medication. Did that take you by surprise?
I think specifically, obviously, there's a documentary on Justin and the album, so you see her doing those things for him. It goes both ways, and I think that she's a great wife. She's there to make sure that he's got what he needs and he's taken care of, and it goes both ways, though. It really, that's a phenomenal two-way relationship.
He talks in the documentary about how he always wanted to be a husband and he really wants to be a father.
Yeah.
You think that's in the cards? Is that going to happen?
I assume so, yeah.
Yeah.
I have no insider information there, but I think so, yeah.
Knowing what you know of him, what kind of father do you think he will be?
I think he's going to be a great dad. He's fantastic with kids.
And I have the sickest chick in the game. She's so awesome.
Yeah, he still makes me a little nervous sometimes. Like, I blush and I get a little bit, cheesy.
This wedding is almost like it's the reward. It's the cherry on top. What's it like for you to watch a guy who's gone through so many ups and downs and to finally make it to that incredible, sweet moment?
I think there's there's cherries on cherries. It's the wedding episode is obviously great, and it feels like a win. If you invest in this documentary, you get to that point and you feel pride, and certainly if you're rooting for him as our protagonist, which
you're
I
like,
think
you
should.
found love.
Yeah,
yes.
you found love, and it feels pure and real.
What are people gonna see in that wedding episode?
Everything. That's it. Yeah, it's you see the moments.
Vows, walking down the aisle, all of that.
Yeah, moments before. Hailey, obviously getting ready, and Justin with his friends and family getting ready. I mean, and it's really it's a special episode because I think that there was so much interest in that. And they allowed us to really capture it and share it with the world.